Hello, it is I, Cody, returning with another poetry reading. Thank you so much for being here and for offering your attentions for the next few minutes. Today's will be from the book Commons by Myung-Mi Kim, from the last portion of the book titled Pollen Fossil Record. This is a very language breaking apart style of poetics throughout this book. And I'm reading in this very last section what I'm still going to call a poem, but might be better interpreted as a craft talk, a small lyric essay. I thought it was very striking and that it could be useful for listeners, readers alike to hear. The idea of Romanization. The ideas of translation, translatability, transliteration, transcription, bit, part, scattered phoneme, suggestion of sounds, a glitch of ear and tongue occurring in unrecognizable patterns. For a long time, I dismissed or couldn't fold in or hold these random, skittish stutterings. However, once perceived as, made audible and tactile as, potential sounds in Korean or, for that matter, any number of languages, Middle English, Latin, French, that constitute, quote, English, quote, these roaming fragments fall into the writing. Yet how to render their presence fully? Sometimes this necessitated conjoining the English and Korean alphabets. Rehearsals of conflating Korean and English texts, for example, in the body of a 14th century Sijô, or an alliterative English poem from the same time. Set in concurrent motion, these texts were translated simultaneously. It is not the actual translation or even the state of translatability between the two texts that is intriguing, but the possibilities for transcribing what occurs in the traversal between the two languages, and, by extension, between the two nations, their mutually implicated histories of colonization, political conflicts, and so on. What is the recombinant energy created between languages, geopolitical economies, cultural representations, concepts of community? Rehearsals of listening, practicing sound and gesture between languages, between systems of writing, how physically, almost physiologically impossible it is to pronounce or even imagine what Korean words are being depicted under the standardized romanization of Korean. The odd vowel blurs, the unclear consonant combinations, poised between a spectral and real engagement with Korean. The practicing had to be one in which this specific formulation of ear, mouth, and tongue had to find a correspondence in English, oral, and written. I know those two words are pronounced the same, but oral and oral. Practices in transliteration, comparing the standard romanization to what I might be said to be hearing. Sesang Saramdura next to Saisang Saramdula. Whose ears are at work? Where does the authority of romanizing reside? How might it be entered into otherwise? A further rehearsal. being compelled to write down as exactly as possible the words of Olga Kim speaking about her 40 years of living in Siberia, and knowing fully that an atrophied, arrested, third-grade Korean writing is what was available, what was missing, what was forgotten, what was never learned in the first place, what was and was not written correctly. Each of these instances is enunciative. These rehearsals, not as description, but as activation, actively investigating how legibility is constructed and maintained, how English is made and disseminated. What is English now, in the face of mass global migrations, ecological degradations, shifts and upheavals in identifications of gender and labor? How can the dictions, registers, inflections, as well as varying affective stances that have and will continue to filter into English be taken into account? What are the implications of writing at this moment in precisely this America? How to practice and make plural the written and spoken, grammars, syntaxes, textures, intonations. Counter the potential totalizing power of language that serves the prevailing systems and demands of coherence. Contemplate the generative power of the designation illegible coming to speech. Enter language as it factors in, layers in, crosses fields of meaning, elaborating and extending the possibilities for sense-making. Consider how the polyglot, porous, transcultural presence alerts and alters what is around it. I wanted to share this with you all because I thought it was a really incredible text on translation, on the purpose of language, and on the purpose of language's flexibility. How language is always in service in some way to imperialism, and how the art of writing is in another way always against service of imperialism. For however much an imperial force may bend language toward its whims and means, we as writers must, whether through legibility or illegibility, whether through coherence or tactile displays or physiological needs, writing is always trying to combat and bend against the pulling of imperialist dictation. This book was a pretty stunning collection to me, and gave me a lot of generative thoughts on what a poem can be, what a poem can be trying to do, or what a poem can be speaking toward, whether it's archive or catalog or something else entirely. The other aspect of the talk that I shared that I just wanted to bring up was that this book was published in 2009, and I would imagine that that last portion of it was written earlier, maybe 2007, 2008, however long ago that it takes to get put into a book. I think it's incredibly stunning and incredibly irritating how resonant it remains to be in today's discourse, today's languages. Especially with the news recently of all presses that engage in air quotes, multicultural air quote, or translation-related projects that got funding from the National Endowment for the Arts, was stripped away from them, rescinded, and instead told to realign their press's mission with the empowering and creative capacities for AI. What a load of shit. Thanks for listening to me. And I hope this discussion of the poem aids you. Have a wonderful day. Bye.